Okay, hello everyone. This video is going to be about Lady Macbeth. I've taken three extracts that kind of show how she changes dramatically over the course of the play. And we'll just kind of briefly think about the traditional interpretation of her as being a manipulative and conniving woman whose ambition fool her gormless husband into killing the king, versus the more modern feminist interpretation that actually she is only facilitating her husband's ambition, and really she is a woman who eventually is then left with absolutely nothing. So the first short speech is the famous "Unsex Me Here" speech, and that is from Act 1 and Scene 5. Okay, now she has just discovered the news that Macbeth has been promised three things by the witches. The first of which, of course, is that he will be the Thane of Cawdor. The second, that he will one day be king. And then also that Banquo's children will be kings. Now, it's the first two, or rather the second one, obviously, that interests her most. Because she, at first, seems concerned that Macbeth is not going to be strong enough, or perhaps ruthless enough to do what is required in order to become king, which is obviously murder the existing King Duncan. So she makes a pact with the forces of darkness. She says, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here." Now, the main parts that you'd have to memorize are "you spirits" and "unsex me." The rest of it, not as important. The reference to spirits, of course, aligns her interest instantly with the supernatural, okay? Now, this is one of the main things that people have traditionally said makes her, the most evil character, because she is willingly choosing to be, a witch. The idea that she is making a pact with the the forces of darkness makes her a witch in the same way that the others would have been. So this is cause to consider her evil, because she is interested in perverting the course of nature. Now that's exactly what she does. She says, "Unsex me here." Now that literally means remove all that makes her a woman. Now why does she want to remove all of these things? Well, she needs to get rid of them because she feels that she is not going to be brave or strong enough to persuade her husband if she is too womanly. Now, obviously, these are the historic, stereotypical traits associated with womanhood. The idea of being a mother, the idea of being kind, and all of these kinds of things. And she references them. She says, "Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall." Now, obviously, milk has its connotations of purity, and obviously gall has its connotations of the opposite. It's a very acidic and, generally acerbic substance that is to do with the breaking down of things. So it's the complete opposite. Rather than create and build, it breaks things down. It breaks down matter. And so that's kind of symbolic of what she is going to become, somebody not who nurtures and provides kind of sustenance for people, or specifically children. That's not how you spell the word, nurturing. There we go. Rather, she is going to become somebody who is concerned with evil deeds and that sort. She insists, however, later on, that my keen knife, see not the wound it makes. Now, this is a personification of the knife, which is an interesting thing to do. Now, historically, this fits into the idea, or interpretation one, as we've been calling it, that she wants to do this under the cover of darkness. Nor heaven peep through the blanket of dark to cry, "Hold, hold." Rather, she's hoping that nobody sees what she does. But you could interpret it another way too. So that's interpretation one. Hopes nobody sees her actions. But interpretation number two could be slightly different, and not that people don't observe what she does and, catch her in the act, but rather it could be that she wishes not to see it herself. Now, that would support our second argument. The second argument that she is less to blame for the deed because actually she is just following her husband's ambition, that interpretation is kind of based on the idea that she knows how evil this thing is. She knows that unsexing herself is a very unnatural, unholy thing to do, totally going against God's, plan and his great chain of being. But also she knows how wrong it is for her to even take any part in this. And she's only doing it because it's what her husband wants, that he's the kind of the greatest power in her life. And so the second interpretation is that she doesn't even want to see it herself because she can't live with the thought of it. So it kind of speaks to her guilt, or rather the guilt she's assuming, rightly assuming she's going to have. So those are our kind of two interpretations of the possibilities of Lady Macbeth. But either way, at the start, she seems as a woman who is making a kind of a strong decision about what she's going to do. The next one we look at is from the section where she is speaking to Macbeth about his plans, or rather the plans he seems to be hatching to get rid of Banquo. So this is Act 3, Scene 1. Now, at this point in the play, she notices that he is deliberately keeping away from her, and instantly she says, "How now, my lord? What do you keep alone?" Now, this indicates he's avoiding her. Now, why would he be avoiding her? Given at the start, we remember he called her his dearest partner in greatness. Now, that implies that he was doing things with her help. Now, here, though, indicates he is avoiding her and her advice. He hatches this plan to kill Banquo without her, without anything to do it. She then says to him, "Come, gentle, my lord, sleep over your rugged looks, be bright and jovial among your guests tonight, and also you must leave this." She is trying to give him advice. However, it's advice that he is no longer giving. Advice that he is no longer taking. She is suddenly at a point where he is beginning to pull away from her. "You must leave this" is far less manipulative and far less persuasive than anything she said before. This is almost pleading with him, almost begging him to stop what he's doing. And that is, of course, killing Banquo. Doing, or rather planning, yes, he's stopped what he's doing or planning. Now that's interesting because she is commanding still, she's using an imperative word, "You must leave this," but it's not being taken on board anymore. He is, as we know, he doesn't do what she says. He does instruct the murderers to kill Banquo. And so from that point of view, it's actually indicating her slight decline. So this is the point at which she ceases to be a useful presence for Macbeth. Now, with that use being gone, as a woman in this time period, suddenly her purpose seems to be sort of non-existent. It's not something that matters anymore. It's something that becomes totally, totally irrelevant. And that is something that she cannot deal with. And this is why, come the point where she has the outdamned spot scene, she has gone totally mad. Now, this section here is one where she has totally lost the plot, if you see. She says, "Outdamned spot, out I say." She is, of course, hallucinating blood on her hands. And this, as it does throughout the play, blood is symbolic of guilt. "Hell is murky, fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and afeard. What need we fear who knows it when none can call our power to account?" Now this is kind of reflecting his language, this idea of fear, but it is showing the fear that she now possesses. Now, of course, at the start when she removes her femininity, she is supposed to be a brave man, but this marks the fact that she has reverted to, and I'm going to write womanhood in inverted commas because this is all the stereotypical interpretation of what it means to be a woman. She's reverted to womanhood and the old traits that she was supposed to have. In fact, you will see here, she describes her hand as being little. So this is much more feminine and delicate, and it contrasts completely with how she described herself in, or rather what she was saying she wanted to happen in Act 1, Scene 5, when she talks about all of the female traits she wants to get rid of. Now she is back to this. Here's the smell of blood still, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. So this sort of massive hyperbole shows the level of her guilt. And then, of course, to bed, there's a knocking at the gate. Come, 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 give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. Now, this reflects the fact that she knows, at this point, that she cannot live in this world anymore. Now, it could be guilt. It could be that she has lost her purpose. It could be a number of those things. However, this marks the true progression from her as being an unsexed, evil creature of the night to being a vulnerable, fragile woman who has no purpose. And so if we just mark it very briefly, we can kind of do it on that trajectory. So we've got unsexed and manipulative. No longer Macbeth's dearest partner. And then finally, insane, driven insane, shall we say, driven insane by guilt.